Welcome to Bird Dog Tales. I'm here with my hunt buddies Drew Motts, Josh Gibson, and myself, your host, Jared Knipper. We will be talking to Bob Knipper, the founder of Boberosa Gun Dogs. He's going to tell about his story about the best bird dog he's ever had, Totem. Welcome to the show, Bob. It's our first episode. Not only is Bob the founder of Boberosa Gun Dog, he's also a fashionista of sorts in the training fields. Why don't we start the day off by talking about your ultimate dress in these hot, muggy summer months for comfortability in the training fields?
Yeah, I do enjoy the summer. It's been a rough summer, probably one of the worst I remember for dog training. This humidity's really been tough to deal with, but we got through it and we're able to keep most of the dogs on track that we've been training. So glad to be here. Glad to help you guys out.
Yeah, so we're here today to talk about kind of the dog that started it all. I remember her name is Totem. For those of you that don't know, Dad here, or Bob is my dad, and Totem's the first field bred Springer that we ever had. Before we jump into some of those unforgettable moments that we had with Totem in the field, what's one thing that comes to mind, like a good hunting story, probably your favorite memory of Totem in the field?
I would say probably the most notable memory of Totem was she was a finished young dog, and she had hunted a couple seasons for us, and we were in Iowa around a cattail swale or a swamp, and it was late season. The ponds were froze up, not with real thick ice, just thick enough that you could walk. Well, you thought you could walk on it. So we had shot a rooster that had flown across that pond and had been shot and dropped on that thin ice, and Totem was sent right for it, not knowing the ice was that thin. And she got about probably a good 30 yards out there. And unfortunately, she broke through that ice, and she was out there about 30 yards. There was no way to go out and help her because it wouldn't hold your weight, but it would hold the dog's weight. And she had that rooster in her mouth, but the most notable thing is she never dropped it. She kept breaking through that ice, which seemed forever. It was probably maybe 10 minutes. And she kept having to break through it with her front paws and get up on it and fall through and break through. And she continued that struggle where you were almost scared, that she needed to go get some help. But she made it out of there and come to me, and she never once dropped that rooster out of her mouth. Just to show you the heart these dogs have and the desire they have to please. She never dropped that rooster, came right to me, presented that rooster, and we both collapsed with excitement that she'd made it there and that we didn't lose a dog, and we had a successful hunt that year. So that's probably the most notable thing.
Were you by yourself when you were out there?
Yeah, actually I was. There was another gentleman hunting with me, but he was further away from me and really had no idea what was going on. So it was one of those where I'm thinking, man, where do I go get a boat? Where do I, because there was no risk of me being able to go out there and walk on it myself because it wouldn't hold me, but it definitely stuck in my head. And she was really that way her whole life. Her very biddable dog, really easy to train. We took her through her training process really smoothly. And when we steadied her, which is where you go from them flushing and chasing to sitting or hupping on the flush, we really did it in a weekend. And I literally did it in the living room with socks. And we took her to the field and put her on a couple of birds with our steadying process, and she just immediately took right to it. Was probably, or is to this day, the most steady dog we've ever developed, where it was just a natural thing for her to want to please. So yeah, she's was the first field-bred English Springer Spaniel we owned. We had gone from Beagles to English Setters to one show-bred English Springer, and the field-bred line was introduced to me at a very young age. I was 18 or 19 and fell in love with the breed, and then just continued my growth with the Spaniels and my training growth, if you would. And she was a great dog, and there's more to tell.
So let's start back to when she was a pup. I remember her being born at our place on Hostler Road in Leo there. Tell us a little bit about her as a pup and some of the struggles that she had and things she had to overcome.
Yeah, the first gentleman I got involved with was a gentleman by the name of Mike Osborne, who had a field-bred Spaniel. And we just stumbled across each other, I think, at an outdoor show in Fort Wayne, the Sports Vacation Boat Show, if you guys remember that back in the day. So we met each other and kind of hooked up a friendship, and he took me along with him where he was having his dog, his name was Breeze, trained, and myself and my family, Jared included, and I think maybe Dustin was a baby. We would make regular trips to southern Ohio to Turtle Creek Farms with a lady by the name of Marilyn Watkins. And I basically spent 2 or 3 years making trips down there almost every other weekend, really apprenticing under her tutelage on how to train these dogs. My dad had taught me a lot about English setters, and I knew beagles inside and out. So I needed to add the skill of training these flushing dogs to what I knew to do to try to build my dog business. So we took Mike's dog Breeze and we bred her to one of Maryland's high-end trial dogs. It was not a field champion, but it had produced several good dogs. So we bred Breeze to that dog, and Mike didn't have a place to raise the litter of puppies, so I raised the pups in our house, our first home on Hostler Road. And really, that was the start of what we called Little Turtle Kennels. We took that name Turtle Creek, and Mike and I started Little Turtle Kennels and established this first litter as our first step into the dog business and the dog world. And she had several nice puppies. One that I remember was we sold a gentleman named Mike Christopher, a dog by the name of Brandy. And my wife had been babysitting his children for his wife, who was a school teacher. And then Totem was slow to develop. She was what they considered a swimmer pup, which meant she was very slow to get her legs out from under her. And her back legs would want to lay flat in the whelping bed while the other pups were running her over. So really, I kind of kept her and sold all the rest because, thought maybe we had a defective puppy, but learned methods to get her better traction, and she just had to develop more leg strength to get out of that swimmer stage, we call it. And she came out of it fine. We just really never noticed any more issues with her. And her and the other dog, Brandy, were trained pretty much together. And both pups out of that litter turned out to be exceptional gun dogs. I've got lots of stories about Brandy too, but we'll stay on the subject of Totem here. I hunted with Brandy and Totem in Iowa with Mike Christopher on dozens and dozens of pheasant hunts in Iowa when birds were there. There was lots of set-aside grass, and, limits were a regular basis when you went to Iowa. But we were young then. We could leave at noon on Friday, be at the hotel by 8 o'clock, hunt Saturday, hunt Sunday, leave at noon on Monday, be home at midnight, be to work on Tuesday. This bird dog business and the love for the outdoors and the uplands is definitely something you develop into being a way of life, not just a hobby. It's something you kind of eat, drink, and sleep. And really, I built my family and my career around it. And Totem was the initial start of getting her going and introducing me to the Springer world. And we've been with it ever since.
I remember Totem as I put it, the legend of the upland fields in Iowa. I killed my first bird over Totem in a standing cornfield as the farmer left about 10 rows for us before he finished combining off, and I think he got to watch me shoot my first bird over that dog. Every time I walk by standing corn now, I always kind of want to wander through it again just to kill a few more birds, but I've learned that that's not always the best thing to take your flushers into if you ever want to get them back.
Yeah, and I remember that hunt specifically because we had two young men with us from Ohio, a gentleman named Jeff Davis and his friend, and they had never been on wild birds. And the farmer was watching us hunt his property. We had permission, of course. He was on his combine. He had been down to that last probably 20 row wide by 300-yard long strip, and he was just on the combine watching us. And Jeff and his buddy, I put at the end of those corn rows to block, and we were shooting birds coming out of the sides of the corn. Totems running through that corn, and we're dropping birds left and right on the sides of those corns with wing guns, and I never hear them shoot. And I get down to the end, and they're just standing there. I said, why didn't you guys shoot? And they're going, oh my God. I said, what happened? They said, there were so many birds that came out of the end of that corn. We didn't even know what to do. And the farmer, I went over to talk to him. He laughed. He said he was peeing his pants. He was laughing so hard with those two kids just standing there with their eyes wide open, never seeing that many birds hit them in the face like that. They couldn't even pick one out to shoot. So yeah, very memorable hunt. So something that all of us get to enjoy with our dogs because they're very short-lived, 12 to 15 years. And unfortunately, and then you've got to find a new hunting partner.
Yeah, in the kennel, we've got a wall of fame, and then Totem's got a picture up there, and she's wrapped up in gauze and on her ankle. And tell a little bit about that hunt, that cut cornfield, that first frost of the year when those birds held as we wandered through that. And I think the four of us killed a limit just wandering through that cut cornfield with Totem.
Yeah, as you can imagine, an icy cut cornfield, everything's pretty jagged and sharp. And she had a hard day's hunt that day and did come out of there a little weathered, where we had to bandage her up with some gauze and stuff where she was cutting up the fronts of her legs. And, if she had any weak points, one was definitely her pads. She were pretty light colored pads and they were pretty tender footed. So we would make, some conditioning for her to try to keep her pads tightened up. But I do remember one year I conditioned her for probably 6 weeks on gravel roads and to get her pads calloused over. And we get to Iowa, maybe a 5-day hunt, and I let her out on the first field and she comes back limping and she's got a cut in her pad. Looks like you took a suture and just sliced her pad wide open. I go out there in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, is a pile of broken glass. So she was done for the 5-day hunt. We had to unfortunately put her up, but that's the luck of the hunt, I guess, and just another added memory to what happens. When she was later in life, when she was hitting her 10, 11 years, she started to have periodic seizures, nothing major, nothing the vet really could do anything about. And the first one she had scared me. I thought, maybe this was going to be her last hunt, but she pulled out of it. Then she had 2 more before she passed to just basically old age. But again, the heart in these dogs, she was coming back in with a rooster. She dropped and she went into a full seizure. That rooster dropped out of her mouth and she was, kicking her legs back and forth. And there's really nothing you can do but just keep them from getting themselves into trouble. And it wasn't maybe a minute and a half. She come out of that seizure. First thing she did was pick that rooster right up and bring it in. So it's just amazing how man has developed all of these breeds of dogs and gotten them to perform for us. But Springers, probably one of the breeds that definitely needs to have a partnership with you, a good bond. They don't take heavy-handed training. You got to kind of reach a level of cooperation with them and just understand each dog. And so they really teach you about calmness in your dog training. I'm 66 years old. I've done this since I was 9 years old and dreamt about having a bird dog training kennel since I was little. Took a lot of years to build it. It's done well. It's passing it on to my family, but you really have to learn how to develop those training skills and the calmness and what the dogs need to be calm. You first start out, you think that pressure and heavy-handedness or whatever it may be will develop a dog, which is just 180 degrees of where you need to be. You have to learn to read the dog and understand, keep the calmness, because you've seen it on Milan's broadcasts and things like that. And it really is true that your temperament and your emotions go right into that dog. So you got to learn to train with those emotions under control and you become a much better dog trainer. So she taught me a lot about that because I could read when I was putting too much pressure on her and when I needed to take some pressure off. So she was really a good learning lesson for me on how to train properly. Yeah, she was a great dog along with a lot of them that followed.
Yeah, I forgot about Brandy, and we ought to talk to Christopher about doing something similar.
Yeah,
here with us. I bet he'd be happy to come and try that.
Yeah,
that Brandy dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, you mentioned your dad was a setter guy. What was it about the Springers that you found intriguing and decided to stick with them?
I guess probably sum that up as the rush of the flush. I preferred to hunt wild pheasants over anything. Shot a lot of quail in my day when we were younger. There were a lot of quail locally here and hunted those over English setters and enjoyed that by all means, or I wouldn't be training many pointers I do today. But I just like the rush of the flush. It's just the speed of it, the cover you're in. You're always in a little heavier prairie grass type cover. They're very biddable. They want to please you, and it just made a enjoyable dog, But, they all have their pluses and minuses. In our kennel business, we're not a big breeding kennel, but when we do breed, we try to breed Springers that have a good off switch where they can be good family companions and you can live with them comfortably, and then they can turn it on in the field. That trait's hard to find in all breeds. Some breeds more than others, and some of the field trial game develops great dogs, develops great genes, but sometimes it does develop dogs with a lot more energy that the average person can handle. So they need to get some training by us or need to understand better what they've got. But yeah, that's really what drew me to it is the speed of it. And even to this day, I like the speed of it. Well, you guys have hunted with me. I like the speed of the shot. I just like, the pointing definitely serves its purpose. It's got great needs out west for covering big expanses of grass. But I do like the speed of it and the rush of the flush and the quickness you have to shoot with is what drew me to it. Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our discussion about Totem, is there one hunt that you did she have a signature move? I know all dogs have different quirks and different personalities, but like what was the thing that just made her so good at what she did?
I guess the best thing about Totem was you could hunt for 3 days and literally blow the whistle twice. She just knew to stay with you. She knew to hunt for you. And she definitely knew me. If you had a group of 3 or 4 guys, you could see her looking for me and favoring the quartering pattern to stay into my area. You'd almost have to force her to go cover another section of grass. So she had, just an attachment to me. But I guess to show you the sensitivity of these dogs, when we moved from Hostler Road to County Road 68 on a little bit of acreage, a 5-acre place where we built our first kennel building, we moved there. And funny story, bless my wife, we moved there on Thanksgiving weekend. We had Thanksgiving dinner at our house for our entire family the day we moved in to that home. I was in Iowa bird hunting the Friday before Thanksgiving. Monday or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I came home from Iowa on Wednesday. My wife had everything packed. I had a moving van I picked up, and we loaded that moving van up on Wednesday and moved to our new house on Thursday and unloaded everything in the garage and then had Thanksgiving dinner that day, the day we moved in. But what was interesting about Totem, how sensitive she was, the last thing we moved out of that house was Totem. And everything was out in that moving van. And I went to get her, and she was in the corner of the garage, just curled up in an absolute ball. And I thought something was wrong with her. And she even had a little bit of growl to her when I went to get her, and I just had to calm her down. She knew that something was up. Something was changing in her environment. And so I had to calm her down and get her into my truck to get her to the new place. So it was really interesting how she responded to that move. I always tell my dog customers that dogs definitely don't think like humans. They're not longing for you, but they definitely are sensitive to their immediate surroundings. They live in the moment. So you got to train them with that in mind. Train your dogs thinking that dogs live in the moment. Live with your dogs knowing that they live in the moment, and you'll better understand that. So she's just a sensitive, easy to handle, easy to train dog. Probably wasn't the best dog to teach you how to train tougher dogs, but you got to learn as you go. I started that business on Hostler Road. My first dog was a lab, a gentleman that owned Classic Stereo in Fort Wayne. And I brought his dog to my garage, and I kept him in a crate during the weekends while we were training him in some neighboring fields. And the word just spread that I trained his dog, knowing he knew a lot of people coming into the store buying stereo equipment. And it just spread. I just would get phone calls, and then Friday night, I'd pick up 2 dogs and I'd keep them kennel crated, and I'd train them all weekend. I'd take them home Sunday night because I'd know where to put them. So we developed it from that, and really Totem was the start of that development. And it just took years. Christy and I were married young. We started a family early. So I had that bird dog business in the back of my mind. I was a plumber, pipe fitter, HVAC guy for 40 years, trained bird dogs full time, taught the apprenticeship program. My wife babysat. She did whatever it took for us to keep pushing it forward. And I never lost that dream of building a dog business from scratch. And we did it. It was a grind, but I never looked at it as work. Even to this day, with all the dogs I've trained, well, there's been some questions this summer with the humidity. Of all the dogs I've trained, it still feels fresh to me when I put a new dog in the field. So if there's something that you enjoy that much and that's good for your family, and it was good for my family, they all learned to take care of them, take care of these dogs before they took care of themselves. That's a running line from where the red fern grows to meet God halfway. And boy, that line really stuck in my head too. So, no, she was instrumental in starting the bug, if you would. And we just pushed forward from there. So it's been a good ride, and we bred a couple good litters of puppies out of her that people were really happy with. Unfortunately, we never kept her total lineage over the years, but we've redeveloped our own spaniel line and been happy with where we're at right now.
Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about Totem and her story. From here, we're going to kind of move on to just training talk. We do this every weekend, 5 days a week, and a little bit off the cuff, and we're just going to talk about where everybody's at, who we're working, and what's coming up here in the next month for some of the dogs we've got. Right now, I'm working on a dog named Paige on the table. She's starting to figure out what fetch means. Today, she actually snapped at it for the first time, so that was a little bit of progress. And we got a whole host of dogs. Talk a little bit about how we're getting our dogs in shape here, and some customers' dogs for the upcoming hunting season. All of us, Drew included. We got grouse trip coming up. We got Kansas.
Yeah,
we got Montana. So
yeah, we've got a lot of dogs coming in the month of September for conditioning. All dogs that we've trained in the past, and these guys are good dog people. They're wise to try to get these dogs in condition before they take them on a 5-day hunt and expect them to go all day long without any conditioning. No different than you or I. So we'll get them all reintroduced to birds and get them handling birds again. Get their commands solid. But we do road them with a 4-wheeler. Get some conditioning in them, a little bit of aerobics in them. Luckily, dogs, like people, get in shape really fast. We can take a dog that looks like he's been on the couch for a year and within 6 weeks, just turn him back into an athlete. Where us, it takes 6 years to do that. So, but yeah, you just got to get them in condition, get their coats trimmed down, and get them ready to go.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I got to start on mine. Mine, I got a little more window than you do, not till November, but got to get the cockers back in shape. And this young English setter puppy I got from Top City Setters.
Swimming them's a good thing too. If you can get them doing water work, that's a good way to get some exercise in. It's easier on their joints, and
it's good for a bath.
Yeah. Get him a bath.
Clean. Drew, you got an old dog. How's he gonna?
Yeah, I'm the token pointer guy in the gang, and Blaze is.
I got two. I'm on that train now.
Yeah, but he's a little bit too housebroken now. But we're gonna have him out here this year and see if he can still keep up. And Maggie's kind of in her prime right now. She's turning 7 this year, so excited to see her work in the grouse woods and
Fish
into the abyss.
Yeah, the abyss. Drew likes the grouse woods and the darkness. Here's
the cave of darkness.
That just goes back to, like Bob was saying earlier, is Bob likes the rush of the flush, whereas I like to kind of tune out and follow my dog into the middle of nowhere, and that seems to suit me pretty well. Not so much when we're hunting, because I tend to get separated from guys. You hear a couple cracks of the shotgun, you know where to find me.
We spend a little bit of time trying to figure out where Drew is. 20% of the hunts hunting for grouse in the North Woods, and 20%. Where the heck is Drew?
I kind of go into a trance a little bit.
Yeah, we have to put a locate collar on Drew and
might have to this year.
Yeah, but it's good. We've had some great memories hunting, together. We tend to, make the pointer and flusher game together work in ways that you might not think is possible, but it's been good to us. So
yeah, we got you're heading to Montana for 3 weeks, chasing anything that flies pretty much.
Yeah.
Josh, you're going with him, right?
Yeah, I'm going on that Montana trip with my 2 springers, Leroy 6 and Embers 2. And the big thing I'm trying to do right now is, like we've been mentioning, is conditioning. Yeah. Leroy's a finished dog, just trying to get him in shape for those long days out there in Montana.
Yeah, our first hunt, we're all going to be up in the UP chasing some grouse middle here, less than a month, right at a month.
Yeah, and we're also doing a field trial up there. Yeah, that's part of our training. We'll start doing Bob and I will start running our dogs in braces and doing some prep for that as well.
Yeah, well, Drew and I wandered into the abyss and wait to hear word of.
It's going to be even worse because mid-September in Michigan is, the leaves aren't exactly off the trees yet. Visibility is not going to be great, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we got to make sure we pray for cold weather.
You're walking in there and getting anywhere near Drew like a Sylvester Stallone in Rambo. He just appears
out of nowhere.
Bloody hands, burnt through his coat. That's usually how it goes. So I will say, we kill a lot of birds. You kill a lot of birds over your GSPs up there, bird hunting in the North Woods.
Yes, missed a lot of birds too, but that's grouse hunting for you.
Yeah. Well, that's about our time for today. So we will be dropping one of these episodes. Our goal is one a week here. Also, you can tune into Boberosa Gun Dogs to watch our podcast, as well as some more training content, training videos that we're building out over the course of this. Like I said, we've been doing this. Dad's been doing this for 40 years. I've been doing it as long as I can walk. So we are just trying to grow this a little bit and get some more folks into the game. We're seeing lots of young folks in dog training that don't quite know what they're doing yet. And we hope to educate them, not only in helping them get their dog trained, but also how to handle their dog and how to get them out west and experience all the joys this has to offer and the awe and wonder that comes along with it. So with that, we will see you guys on our next episode. Have a great week.